The endless tunnel of darkness that is Texas is totally mind-numbing. There's no escape. Just keep moving forward, fast. As the winds kick up, ghostly shadows dance across the white stripes as unseen hands punch and push me, pummeling the speeding motorcycle across lanes. I ride long sections of highway in complete solitude and push 110 miles an hour in a pathetic attempt to get to the next patch of distant lights, racing towards the glow of the next safe haven only to pass again into the complete blackness. This is where the weak falter and the tough get tougher. And then my lights go out. All my lights go out. The bike is still running, but the dash, the running lights, the headlamp, the tail lights, accessory lamps, out. Dead. Nada. The demons of darkness now caress the hairs on my neck. Backing off the throttle and coming to a coast, my eyes adjust to the Cimmerian terrain. There's a waning moon behind me shedding just enough light to distinguish the road in this barren landscape. I pull over onto the sandy shoulder and stop. I'm fucked. Well, not completely fucked because thanks to Barkley tip number 2, I have mini flashlights attached to my jacket. I have spare fuses and know where the fuse box is, but I also now smell the sickening odor of burnt wires. Suddenly, I hear a deep growl. It sounds like a dog. Whether real or I've seen too many horror flicks, pull out the Beretta pistol hidden inside my boot and fire a round into the dark, and see what I believe is 2 tiny red reflective eyes from the pistol flash. Firing 4 more shots in its direction, the darkness quickly drowns me. 2 rounds left. I'm not freaking staying here. Hallucinations or not, start the bike and ride. I can see the white lines clearly in the night and surf them. Fear heightens the senses, and it's as if I have infrared vision. As the adrenaline dissipates in my bloodstream, distant headlights appear in the mirrors. It's a big rig, and I hatch a plan. I'm not going to dick around out here in the darkness, and I'm not going to try and wave down a trucker like a crybaby. I'm going to draft. Finding a place off to the side of the road, I tuck in behind some bushes and wait. Careful not to be night-blinded by the approaching lights, close my eyes and wait for its enormous wake. A massive UPS big rig blows by and I rip after him. Up to 70 miles per hour pretty quickly, I slither within 30 feet. Then 20 feet, then slowly inch up to 10 feet behind him, and the bike almost idles. Taking advantage of his powerful draft, my RPM drops. I throttle down. The wind vortex created behind his big rig creates an enormous suction, and he's literally pulling me along. Close enough that the driver has no clue I exist. I don't have lights anyway. I'm out of danger if a car passes, because they'll never get this close to a big rig. I actually relax. Safely tucked in behind the big rig's wake, I ride the darkness to the next patch of distant lights. The big rig pulls over at the first exit, which is another TA truck stop. I break away and roll over into the shadows and get off the bike for a smoke. The UPS truck heaves to a stop with a brittle chuff of air brakes. I watch. The cabin door slams, and the clack of cowboy boots slaps off the cold night air. With a slow gait, he walks to the back of his rig, stops, and eyeballs the rear of his truck. He's a monster of a man. I can even see that from here. He turns and looks directly at me, and with long, slow steps, heads my way. It's one of those moments you have far too much time to contemplate the outcome. His 6'7" frame towers over me in the shadows, and all I see is a dark silhouette. "Enjoy the ride?" he asserts in a slow southern drawl. I start to stammer out my sorry-ass story, and he breaks in, "I knew you were there the whole time. I got cameras in the back of my rig. The name's Big Rick. How can I help you?" Big Rick found the problem in 2 minutes. The accessory lighting shorted out on the frame and fried the fuses. We just pulled the wires, replaced the fuses, and everything works fine. Except my accessory high-intensity discharge lights. I love those. He offered to let me draft some more through Texas, but now I have a lot of time to make up. Turns out that monster of a man is a Hell's Angel and just bought a brand new CVO Electric Glide Ultra. Big Rick is one of the kindest people I met. We chatted up on the CB, and he told me tales of the road worthy of another book. Freeways may have the same numeric designation and stretch for thousands of miles, but are changelings in the night, becoming glowing shapeshifters of reflective signs, white lines and drunk bumps. White and yellow lines of high-tech, microcrystalline reflective paint disappear into the vanishing point. Some parts of the freeway light up with the latest technology, while others literally disappear in disrepair. Massive freeway signs pop from the gloom like glowing tarot cards, foretelling a foreboding future. 1,577 miles, 38 gallons of gas, 22 hours of riding, caffeine and nicotine fueled. I'm in Houston, and it's only night 2. Night 3, Houston, Texas to Robertsdale, Alabama, 521 miles. A good night's sleep has exorcised the demons of darkness, and I am again relaxed and focused. Most of tonight's ride is through Louisiana. Many roads are shrouded by trees and lush scrub, and the possibility of deer, dogs, or farm animals wandering into my path seem high. Deer whistle, work your magic. Then a light rain became a thunder and lightning downpour. I find myself behind a big rig convoy, turn on the heated seat, heated grips, settle in, and listen to the CB chatter. I meet Dwayne, and we discuss the prior night's drafting adventure, and I ask if I can draft in his wake to escape the weather. Never draft a big rig without their consent, otherwise they'll tap their brakes or turn on their rear floodlights to back you off. We discussed a Mythbusters TV show episode on drafting and big rigs. Drafting increases your mileage up to 40% on cars. They also tried it on a bicycle, and the rider was almost coasting in the big rig's wake. You completely avoid road splash created by these behemoths, and there's virtually no rain hitting your bike. Dwayne laughs and lets me ride along while he actually watches the Mythbusters episode. It's a little disconcerting that I'm following an 18-wheeler in the rain while the driver is watching videos. At 4 in the morning, while 15 feet away, Dwayne locks up his brakes. When those brake lights go off and the tires start skidding, it's like 1,000 volts of electricity to your spine. And you instinctively grab your brakes full force. It's impossible not to. His ass end begins to swing to the right as the cab moves to the left to avoid a dead car stalled in the slow lane. ABS on a motorcycle will save your life. There's absolutely no question about this. Under the same road conditions, without ABS, the motorcycle's front tire would have washed out. The bike and I would have slid underneath 20,000 pounds of rubber skidding across lanes and been ground up like a 2x4 in a tree shredder. I will never draft again. Nerves frayed and running out of time, I realize there's no way I'm getting close to Florida in my allotted time. There's just too much bad weather, congestion, and potential for calamity. My time ran out just past Mobile, Alabama. I pulled off Interstate 10 into an Oasis Travel Center at 7:20 a.m. for dinner. How apropos. I'm sitting in the Derailed Diner in Robertsdale, Alabama. Just like me. Derailed, done, stuck. Is this it? What will I do now? I'm 2,071 miles, 50.3 gallons of gas, 2 gallons of coffee, and a pack of cigarettes, and 33 hours into my allotted 60 of drive time. Do I continue to Jacksonville tomorrow and turn around? I can't make good time under these road conditions, and it will inevitably add another 2 days to my trip because of the 34-hour restart regulation. Do I head back tomorrow night, or just abandon this whole mad story altogether? Mulling my dark dilemma over weak coffee, I taste a bitter realization. My lofty adventures, romantic sojourns, and exotic travels were never really about going anywhere. Instead, they're an escape from everywhere. I'm never heading toward anything meaningful, rather always moving away from everything painful, from a string of broken relationships and failed marriages, away from a boring, mundane world by misplaced wanderlust. In truth, my own inability for emotional depth and commitment exiles me to a shallow, emotional wasteland. My endless search is for Deus ex machina, God from a machine. This motorcycle was my salvation. It was my escape. It is my God. Steeping in deep reflection, Reverend David Blanton, senior chaplain of Interstate Chapel Ministries, sits down. He's a real live truck stop preacher, and his house trailer chapel is across from the Oasis Travel Center parking lot. All day he walks the lot and prays with drivers, or just blesses their 18-wheelers. I ask him to bless my bike. I need all the help I can get. For 20 years, David was a long-haul trucker and called himself John the Revelator on the CB. Hearing the complaints about family problems, money, and the difficulty of living on the road, he started giving advice. I asked if he'd ever heard about the corridor of death and long-haul truckers as killers. He hadn't, but he did say in all his years what he hears most is that people just disappear, missing without a trace. Truckers call them MISPers, short for missing persons. Work of the devil, says Reverend Blanton. As I flip through a 10-4 trucker magazine, there's an entire page devoted to the missings. Today, this preacher man delivers me from evil. He knows a great place only 2 miles away that I can sleep for the day. His friend runs a bed and breakfast at the 117-year-old, fully renovated Patterson House. It's like being at my grandmother's. They care for me as if I was family, and I sleep like a baby, undisturbed.